Rayman is awesome. We can all agree on this, including Ubisoft, which thinks he's so cool that they haven't made a game since 2013. But we're not talking about that one today. We're talking about the one before it, Rayman Origins. This game has what the kids would call W-Rays. I have never played a game with as immaculate vibes as this one, but I can't simply enjoy a game. I need to rank it. Every level, worst to best. But what do we define as a level? Well, that's pretty obvious, with two exceptions. I will be ranking the Reveal, Getaway, and Shoot for the Stars separately on this list. You play them all in a row without a break in the game, but they are their own levels with their own names on the world map, so they will be ranked separately. In the same vein, the Land of the Living Dead will be ranked as one level. This one seems obvious, but I know some people would split this one up just like the earlier levels. It's only one level on the world map, and you can't select different parts of it. You have to play the whole thing in one go no matter what. So to me, this is one level. I know like who people ever care about this, but I wanted to be clear so that nobody is confused. With all that certified yapping out of the way, it's time to rank. Literally, what do you want me to say? The worst level in this game isn't even particularly bad. It just lasts for like, not even joking, 30 seconds. I mean, this level has nothing. Like all the Electoon levels, its length means that it barely gets a chance to be anything. This level is the physical manifestation of nothing. You do nothing in it, it means nothing, you lose nothing by removing it from the game, and I have nothing left to say about it. Oh wow, how interesting. This one is at least a little bit longer, but it's not like it scores above Mending the Rift because of its own merit. It has the benefit of being the first Electoon level, so it's kind of fresh, but if you want me to compliment him any more than that, then I think you might be misunderstanding what number 63 on the ranking is to me. Daring today, aren't we? I'm running out of things to say already, and I still have 61 levels to go after this. I mean, it has zip lines. Zip lines are cool. Cooler than anything the last two levels had, that's for sure. But how many times can you just hit Control-C on a shitty level before you start to think, hey, maybe we should, like, make the levels good or something? This game is so creative and unique, but a common theme with these low-ranking levels is that they are forgettable. They don't do anything to stand out or to make me care about them in the slightest. When you clicked on this video, was it because you wanted to know where fucking... I don't remember what it's called. No turning back rank? No, I didn't think so. Oh my god, it's happening. There's actually something to talk about here. Well, the level's shit, but that's something. This is easily the weakest boss level in the game, and I think it's pretty obvious why. All of the other ones have some sort of cool build-up section before the boss. Usually a chase. Actually, like, always a chase, but you know what I mean. This level doesn't have that. I mean, can I even call it a level? This is a boss fight. There isn't any level to this. It wouldn't be so bad if it was just that, but no. It's also the worst boss in the game. I mean, you're seeing the footage. Does this look exciting to you? It's so slow. Nothing in this fight feels like it's urgent, besides the spin move at the end. And despite it feeling slow, it is also one of the shortest boss fights in the game. Which I guess I should be glad about. But if your level has me saying it being short is a positive so I don't have to play it any longer, that's probably a sign your level is complete doo-doo. Did you think we were done with the Electoon levels? Cause we're not. This one is just like the other ones, except it looks kinda unique. This level has a vibe to it, and that's enough to put it 5 places into the list, I guess. I mean, really, there isn't anything particular about this that makes it place higher, it's just cooler. And this is technically the first water level on the list, so now's a good time to point out that this game actually makes water levels fun. So they're not just all going to be at the bottom. Except for this one. This one's at the bottom. This is the first level on the list that doesn't feel like it's going for the world record of shortest video game level, but unfortunately that's to its detriment. This is the first mosquito level in the game. That alone gave me an inflated opinion of this level at first, but if you take that away, wow, this is boring. I get that it's a tutorial level for the mosquito gameplay, but was 1/4 of the level being literally nothing really necessary? And it's not like what is there is anything interesting. I mean, it's just a boring ass level. And before you're like, but the bird boss fight at the end is cool. Firstly, no it isn't. That's boring too. And secondly, I don't even count this as a boss. When I fought this, I wasn't like, oh, that's a cool boss. I was like, oh, that's a big bird. At the very least, it certainly doesn't feel like a boss. This level overall is just incredibly boring to me. And if you disagree with that, that's okay. But respectfully, I don't trust you. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I'm not the biggest fan of the Tricky Treasure levels in general. Some of them are really good, but overall they're not the greatest to me. This one being my least favorite. The platforming in this one just feels really jank. I died most times on this tricky treasure compared to all the others, and it didn't feel like it was for the right reasons. It's hard to explain unless you play it yourself, but this level is just awkward. The underwater section sucks, and the rest of the level is just jumping on the same looking ice blocks. It's still a tricky treasure level, which despite me saying I wasn't the biggest fan of, I do still think they maintain a baseline level of fun just off the concept. And that's what this level is, the baseline. This one is rough. Almost all the jumps in this feel weird to do, and there isn't the sense of flow that most tricky treasures have. Not to mention that this one also feels like it's one of the shortest ones. I simply do not have a good time when playing this level. Sorry to all the 3 cacophonic Chase fans. I don't even know how to pronounce that, I'm going to be honest. I must admit, for an Electoon level, this is a step up. It's still shorter than my list of reasons to live, but it's not like I was expecting a masterpiece going into my 5th Electoon level. It's fun to jump on the platforms being carried by the wind, and the aesthetic is kind of cool. I can't really put this any higher because that would just be a disservice to the actual levels that couldn't be uploaded in full as a YouTube short. But for what it is, I actually enjoyed this one. Maybe because it's also the last one. Slow. This level is so slow. I'm not a fan of the wind gimmick in this game because whenever it's used, it's just the slowest thing ever. And guess what this level is based on? If you said wall running, you're fucking stupid. I hate having to slowly fly up and then slowly fly down on these windpipes. When they made this level, I think they forgot the fun. So why isn't it lower? Well, there's this one part with drums that's pretty fun. If a level is overall bad but has a high point, I'm going to rank it more favorably than a level that's not as offensively bad but also doesn't have anything good about it. Even if that high point is something as stupid as that, I guess. The introductory tricky treasure level isn't all that tricky, but that's not the worst thing. It does well to teach you how these levels work, even if how they work is just a chase. There isn't much to say about this one because it doesn't give you much to talk about. Like most beginner levels, it just gets a little boring. This level is shockingly short. Like it ends before I expect it to, and that makes this level a whole heaping pile of nothing to me. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really have anything for me to comment on. Do some fun platforming and that's kinda it. Obviously it has a whole more flavor than the Electoon levels, but I can't lie to you and say this level, this one right here, is one I look forward to. I more so look forward to the tricky treasure levels as a collective rather than specific ones, with a few exceptions. So this one is just a box to check before reaching the land of the living dead to me. It looks great, that's easy to see. But if you took away the silhouette aesthetic, what is this level really? Just a basic tricky treasure level without much to offer. I think this is the first stage that makes you do tap jumps, but don't fact check me on that. And this level feels oddly forgiving. Like in other tricky treasures I would die, but in this one I'm fine. Does this gameplay seem like I've mastered the level? Because I haven't. It's carried by as aesthetic, but clearly it's a strong aesthetic. The first level in the entire game. A first level sets the bar for what's to come, and it's incredibly important that it leaves a good impression. This one's alright. It feels more like a tutorial than an actual level. I mean, you can't even attack for half of it. The second level is definitely more of a first level than this one. For the actual contents of the level, there's just not much there. You jump, attack. I mean, really that's it, but you sure do jump and attack. A level being easy doesn't mean it's bad. A level being easy means that it's more likely to be boring than a harder level. And nobody likes a boring level. This one, though, barely manages to be kinda interesting with it having the first nymph of the game and being a first introduction to how the game works. So for that, it gets the score here. This level is basically a harder version of another level from World 2. But I find this one to be much weaker. For starters, this level just feels annoying to play. Maybe that's because these snake things are just kinda janky. But there's also some jumps that feel impossible to predict. Like, you saw that, come on. This is technically an auto-scroller as well, so it can definitely feel slow at times. It's not all bad though, some of the platforming is genuinely fun, and I think the first Electoon room is really good. I like running on the snakes as they move, but overall this level just doesn't feel the best to play. The sequel rarely lives up to the original. This level is pretty boring. I don't like the desert levels very much, and this is the pinnacle of that. It's just forgettable. If you show me footage of this level, I would not be able to tell you that it's this one. I mean, this footage isn't even best original score. It's high voltage. Okay, now it's best original score. But seriously though, doesn't matter. It's not a bad level, but it's also just a level. Wait, that's not true. Both of the Electoon rooms in this one are great, especially the second one with the sunset. It's the only room like that in the game, and it looks so good. But yeah, I mean, at least the level's name is funny. Now this is how you do a boss level. The start is calm and serene until you end up getting chased by huge eels into the boss arena. It's not much, but a small section like that really helps build up the boss and make the level feel more substantial. Unfortunately, however, I'm not a fan of this boss. He just circles around you and you have to dodge these spiky sea monster things. It feels like nothing really happens in this fight, if that makes sense. Besides the end. The charge attack he does at the end is cool. If Ice Fishing Folly was janky, well then, oh boy. This one's also janky, I guess. But really though, this one isn't as bad. There's just this one jump at the end of the last enemy that always messes me up. But that might just be a skill issue. There's a pretty cool part on this one where you wall run up falling platforms. If only the rest of the level was that cool. Now that I say that though, that's actually a disservice to the level because I do really like how it sort of unfolds in front of you as you play. But most of the Tricky Treasure levels do that, so it's not too special. I think it's just a nice, good, fun level. Not really much else to say, honestly. Crazy? I was crazy once. This is the Nymph level for World 2, and wow, is it not crazy. It's actually a good level. It's not complicated, but not every level needs to be. It's got fun parts to it, and I must say that the bouncing, although not crazy, is satisfying to do. The power you unlock on this level is the power to glide. Sorry, I meant the power to fly. Why does she call it that? I'm sure some would call this flight, but when I hear that, I think being able to gain, or at the very least maintain, a set altitude. None of this means anything though, so I'll move on. The level's good, and I doubt that's a crazy take. Win or Lose was one of my least favorite levels because of how slow it was, and this level is basically just the hard version of that one. So on paper, I would also hate this level, but I don't. I won't exaggerate, I mean, it's still not that high on the list, but I think this one being harder does a ton to make it more engaging. I love the nighttime vibes this one has, and I think this is one of the only levels that makes you feel like you're high up. Some parts are still slow, but this one is genuinely a fun time, I'd say. And oh, the first Selectoon room in this one just is really satisfying to play. I don't know why it stuck out so much specifically, but it's true. This one is disappointing. It's not the worst Tricky Treasure level, but it is the last one. So I expected more from it. Fun level while it lasts, but it doesn't have any standout set pieces and it doesn't last very long. Also, why is this level themed around Mystical Peak? I get that Moody Clouds is technically that one's sequel world, but geographically this doesn't make sense. We're in a mechanical sky island, not a cave. I don't actually care, but it just robbed us of a Tricky Treasure level themed around the mechanical parts of Moody Clouds. Or hell, even the cloud parts of Moody Clouds. That would have been awesome too. But instead, this is what we got. I feel like I've been only complaining this entire time, but this is still a competent and fun level. I just wish it could have been more unique, too. You know, I gotta hand it to this level. It is Polar, and it is Pursuit. For some of it, anyway. This is a Nymph level, and in this one you unlock the power to change size, which I find to be the least interesting power because I don't really think that tiny mode is that fun to control. But as for the level itself, it's chill. Pun intended. I really like the part on the water with the city in the background that gets eaten later, and you can build up momentum during some parts, which is fun. This is a fun introduction to World 3, but I don't really see it as anything more than that. For the actual first level, the stormy aesthetic at the start is kinda unique, and this whole level just feels like it gives you much more than It's a Jungle Out There. Still a simple level, but what were you expecting from World 1 out of 10? Or technically 11, I guess. I do love the section where the floor and ceiling are moving into each other and you have to avoid getting crushed. Whenever I think about this game, that is one of the first set pieces that comes to mind. But overall, it's still incredibly basic, so I don't have the heart to put it any higher than this. As far as mosquito levels go, this one is mid. It doesn't have too much to stand out, and it feels a little empty at times. Not as boring as Hi-Ho Mosquito, but if it was, it would be as low as that one. The worm guys that may or may not be a precursor to the snakes from Rayman Legends are interesting, but the way they zigzag around can be very unpredictable and annoying. I don't mind this level, but it's far from amazing. For an early level that's still trying to get you acclimated to the game, this one is as good as it gets. It's easy, of course, but that doesn't stop it from being fun. I don't think that it's as good as some later levels in this world, but it definitely holds its own as a standalone level. Honestly, I don't have much else to say here. It's just an easy, fun time. I never really understood why they spelled through like that in the title. It's spelled like in drive-through, which is maybe the pun because it's a food-themed world, but I don't know. As for the level, I'm not a fan of the bubble sections. I shouldn't start out negative because I do like this level, but even when I was younger I hated the bubble sections. They feel so finicky and imprecise. But besides that, this level is a good time. Like most ice levels, it lets you build up some momentum, which is fun. And this one just has a nice flow throughout it, excluding the bubble parts. This one could have been a lot better if it was longer. As is, the first part on the dock is great and the nymph chase is fun. But like most of the nymph levels, as soon as you get the power, the level is basically over. The power to dive is one of the most unique ones in the game because it unlocks a whole new playstyle, and there's a very short underwater section after you get the ability to dive, but honestly, that's my least favorite part. There are plenty of underwater levels, but I would have loved to see a longer level with the docks theming, because the only 2 levels that have it are this one and a tricky treasure we haven't gotten to yet. The port being under attack by the airship and seeing all the residents panicking is nice attention to detail. If only this one just had more. The very next level is the first full underwater level, and I must say, it's pretty unique. This one definitely goes for a darker atmosphere, and I'd say that's to its benefit. I always remember this level, and it stands out not just in World 4, but in the whole game. That being said, the level itself isn't anything too special for the most part. The main gimmick is that you need to stay in the light so that you don't get touched inappropriately by the demon hand things. This makes the level interesting, but what you're actually doing for the most part is nothing crazy. The level also takes until about halfway through before it actually introduces the gimmick, so I feel like it would have benefited from being dark the entire time. I do understand why it isn't, because that would be a stark contrast to go from Porto Panic immediately into darkness, but it's still something I thought could be better. This one is really just a best original score, but better. The platforming in this one just feels good to do. Dodging the vaults, I guess, is satisfying. It's still a little boring, but the increased challenge makes it more fun. You have to be precise in this level, and you need to be patient. But unlike Win or Lose, this one doesn't test my patience. It's just about getting the right timing. And timing-based levels have the capacity to be some of the best in the game. This one isn't one of the best in the game, but it's still good. This is the penultimate mosquito level in the game, and its difficulty certainly lives up to that. I like that this level is themed around infiltrating the moody clouds before you start the world proper. It makes it feel different from most other levels, and I'd be remiss to forget that this is the level that you go to earlier in the game before you can actually access it later. That makes it pretty satisfying to finally get here. I do think it gets overshadowed by the other mosquito level in this world, but this one is still very solid. I like how it shifts from avoiding storm clouds and lightning to avoiding machinery once you get out of the storm. And the missile segment is pretty nice. Good level. Oh hey, I was just talking about you. This is the final level of the entire game, if you don't count the Land of Living Dead. So, it has some big expectations. Does it live up to them? Well, yeah, I guess so. Having a mosquito level be the final one would be weird, but because you played the final 3 levels all in a row without a break, it feels fine. This entire level, you're chasing the airship with a magician on it, getting deeper and deeper into the core of moody clouds. I love how you can attack the airship and break parts off of it, even though it doesn't actually do anything. All that said, this level would definitely be lower if it wasn't the final one. I think the design is actually weaker than Riding the Storm, but this one is carried higher just because of the novelty that comes with it being the last level. At the very least, you must admit that the cutscene at the end is pretty sick. The airship throwing bombs at you the whole time feels very fun to play and makes this tricky treasure stand out from the rest. This one is on the easy side, but it also has multiple memorable parts to it, and that's not something I can say about the previous tricky treasures. The underwater section is actually really well done, and I'm obsessed with the part at the end where you have to wall jump off the walls and then one falls over and you need to walk along it. This one is simple, but memorable. This is a strange level to me. I love the first half and think it's some of the best underwater sections in the game, but I feel like this level falls off in the second half. It starts to feel less creative and not as fun to play. Granted, a lot of this level is just big rooms with enemies in the second and first half, but starting out with a chase on a normal level is just so memorable to me. But I feel like objectively this is one of the weaker levels in the game. And most of that comes down to the fact that a lot of it just isn't that fun. My bias towards this level can only carry it so far when even I think that parts of it are unfun. Look at this. This level looks amazing. The blue temple is so good looking and I wished it was used on an actual level as well. But it's still very good here. As far as level design goes, it's a standard tricky treasure level, but more interesting due to the wall running, which means that it is definitely a fun level to go through. But the standout thing about this level is the looks, and how the basis of it is that traps are going off and trying to kill you. This is what Tricky Treasure 2 wishes it was. Maybe if that one was blue, it would have scored higher. Definitely the hardest World 1 level. This one doesn't do a ton to stand out, but like most of the jungle levels, where it lacks in uniqueness, it excels in simple fun. Do I particularly look forward to this level? No. But whenever I'm playing it, I can't help but be glad. There's also an Angry Birds reference in this one, so that's awesome. This level sort of just has the essence of the game baked into it. If someone asked me to show them the most Rayman Origins-ish level in the game, I'd show them this one. And that doesn't really mean anything, but I can't think of any other way to describe why I like this one so much. I feel like this one should be lower. It doesn't really do anything that special, but if a level is fun, then that's the most important thing to me, and I can't lie. Despite this level being forgettable, I still think it's very fun. Platforming on the missiles is great, and I like the part where the floor is crumbling down. A very standard level, but a pleasant one nonetheless. I'm surprised that I like this level as much as I do, considering it's the second mosquito level and I didn't like the first one at all. But I love ricocheting my shots off of the drums and avoiding being crushed. The section that connects both of the halves is very empty, but once you get into the second half, the pace picks up dramatically. Speeding up while avoiding the closing in walls is a fantastic way to introduce World 3. There isn't the most going on in this stage, but it's a huge step up from the first mosquito level for sure. I find this one to be a drastic improvement over Snake Eyes, and that is reflected in the ranking. Well, I guess it'd be more like that one was a drastic downgrade, but you know what I mean. The gimmick just works so much better in the first iteration. There's no parts that feel annoying. It's just chill fun. I don't have anything bad to say about this one other than the snakes sometimes feeling janky. But I don't encounter that nearly as much on this level compared to Snake Eyes. The first fire level not only on this list but in the whole game. So you can probably guess that I'm a fan of the fire levels in this game. This one though is the weakest. Not that that means much, but yeah. I love the beginning starting out on an icy area before you fall down into the fiery area. Unlike swimming with stars, however, the part before you get to the real level is shorter and doesn't take up as much of the level. At some parts, the heat silhouettes your character in a way that looks very pretty. The knives are also a fun as hell mechanic to play around. The whole section near the end where you need to go down zip lines while fire jets are trying to get you is just peak. But most of the level is nothing crazy in terms of design. That doesn't stop this one from being great though. In my opinion, the best World 1 level. And honestly, it's not even that close. I mean, it's in the name. This one has an amazing flow to it. I love sliding along the rushing water and jumping from vines. This is a level that never gets old. When you're new, it's fun, and when you're more experienced, it's fun. You'll never catch me saying anything bad about Go With The Flow from Rayman Origins. It was hard for me to decide whether I liked Go With The Flow or this level better. I ended up going with this one. What I said about the last one, still flowing, applies here. Only difference is that you now have abilities that you didn't have in the other one. And that's why I like this one more. There's just more that you can do, and honestly, all the levels before you unlock the glide just feel a little weird because you get so used to having it. This level's got all of the flow, but none of the go. I can't believe I actually wrote that in the script. Okay. This was a difficult level to rank. Gameplay wise, it's just two stripped down bosses we've already fought. But vibes can go a long way, and this level has some that no other level in the game has. And of course, the cutscene at the end with everyone dancing is goated. I wish I had more to say about this, but I think it's just one of those levels where you either think it's trash and put it a lot lower, or you appreciate its uniqueness and charm. I do put gameplay above anything else, so that's why it's not higher, but if this was a memorability ranking, yeah, I'd probably put this at number 1. This level feels very maze-like, with all the ice blocks that you need to break to progress. And the inclusion of the invincible orange enemies that can only be killed by falling off into the void makes this level play differently to most others. You have to do a lot of dodging in this level, and I think that's complemented nicely by the tiny mode. I love the ending where you need to lure a big orange enemy into a pit so that you can beat the level. The ice phases as well add a lot to this level in a way that makes it more challenging, but a little annoying at times. The ice blocks can be frustrating to deal with in combination with the oranges at parts. But it doesn't matter too much because even then it's so fun. As far as nymph levels go, this is definitely the best one. The nymph chase is actually really good in this one. The way it goes feels more like a tricky treasure chase than a nymph chase, and I mean that in a good way. The verticality is fun, and the power of wall running is incredibly fun. You do a super long wall run up a mountain and then a fucking rhythm minigame? There was absolutely no need to add that, but they did. And I love this level for it. Everything after that is basic, but with the wall running it still manages to be fun. I feel like I shouldn't like this level as much as I do, but I don't care. This one's a banger. The first boss level in the game, and man does it leave a good impression. Well, the boss itself is okay, but the level leading up to it combined with the fight makes this one incredibly special. The vertical chase is something that this game doesn't do much of, and that makes it stand out a lot in this level. Not to mention that since this is the first time you encounter a boss, that increases the cool factor of this as well. When you get to the fight, it's very trial and error, like most fights in this game. You just have to know what he's going to do in advance for most of this. With that said though, I still like this one more than like all of the others, excluding one. Man, the bosses in this game are just not very good. But this level is always one that I look forward to, which I can't say about some boss levels I've mentioned already. Maybe the placement is too high, but I can't deny that despite this level's shortcomings, aka the actual boss fight, I always have an amazing time playing it. This level is the silhouette aesthetic that Playing in the Shade had, but it has one thing that level didn't. It's good. Look, I'm taking the piss because I still did like that level, but this one is way better. It sticks out so much when looking at all the levels, and I mean that in the best way possible. And it's quite tricky when compared to most levels around it. I will say that the beginning before it turns silhouetted is kind of forgettable, but other than that, this is an amazing level. I'm not even gonna try to logic out how monkeys is spelled. Originally, I thought it was a pun for monkeys, but then I realized that would just be spelled monkeys. So, whatever. This level is really good. A lot of wall running, which you could probably tell that I'm a fan of by now. And I like how you constantly switch from inside caves to outside on the mountain. I've always had trouble with the Yeti guys that throw fire bombs. For some reason, I could never get the trajectory down, and I always get hit. Besides that, there's this section on this elevator type thing, and to be honest, I think it's kind of slow. But one section I don't like isn't enough to ruin a level. This one is always fun. I always get this level confused with Scuba Shootout in World 9. Probably because they both have two eels that you need to dodge between. But I do think that one is better than this one, because the parts that aren't dodging the eels are just alright. When the eels come in though, oh man, it's really fun to go in between them and see them swimming around you. It also really ties this world together, bringing more eels into this, showing that there isn't just the one that you killed. But I don't recall the mosquito ever getting the power to dive, so maybe he's just a built diffie. You do indeed go up, and bear with me here, down in this level. Basic? Sure. Best design level of all time? Probably not. Fun as hell? Tell me what you think. They do a lot of jumps where you need to jump, hit a bud, and then a platform will appear under you. And those just feel really good to do. It makes you think you're really good at the game. What else needs to be said? You go up and down in this level. You already know it's good. What an iconic level. The first half in the fire area is awesome, especially the part where they try to cook you on the grill. Jalapeno Guy makes his first appearance in this level and does the Wilhelm scream when he dies, which is just funny. But then of course when you get out of there and reach the ocean, you encounter the namesake of the level, the eel. Fighting the eel feels super fun and is honestly better than most of the actual boss fights in this game. His design did feel really creepy the first time I saw it. I can't explain it, it's just something about his face. This level sends off Gorman Land with a bang and introduces the Sea of Serendipity flawlessly. If I had to say why it doesn't score higher, it's mostly because there are a lot of great levels in this game, so unfortunately not all of them can place as high as I'd like them to. The start where the camera jerks into place feels very satisfying and is a great beginning. But this one doesn't stop there. The first half is like a better and more challenging version of Aim for the Eel. The fire jets coming out of the lava are great to dodge and weave between, and then the second half turns it up even more. You see the eventual boss of the world in the background eat a city and then throw it up in the foreground. That is just perfect. They could have just had the ice chunks fall from nowhere, but they decided to put a reason for it. A small detail like that really elevates not just this level, but the whole world, because it gives build up to the boss at the end. My main gripe with this level though would be the gameplay to this part. The ice chunks can feel very weird to dodge, and the speeds they come down at feel strange. There is a telegraph of the ice at the top of the screen, but that's hard to see when you have to focus on the ice that's currently falling on you and caving your skull in. And sometimes it feels like it just doesn't do the telegraph, but maybe I'm just not being vigilant enough. That one problem doesn't drag the level down too much though. For being the first level of the angsty abyss, this one feels quite whimsical. I love the dark blues this stage uses, and well, the titular crabs. They're a very unique enemy, and fighting them is always fun. There's even these weird blue tan things that add a lot to the level. There's a lot of parts where you need to swim against the current while enemies come at you, and those sections are very fun. Overall though, there just isn't much to say about a level like this. It's good. I like it quite a bit. Actually, scratch that. I like this level a lot. But nothing really sticks out about it. The way this starts with the vines coming out and you falling down sets up the rest of the level perfectly, because now you could probably finish the sentence. I love the octagonal platforms that spin around and you need to jump when there aren't any spikes. It feels amazing to wall jump off of multiple in a row, and this level does have a lot of wall jumping. Probably more than any other in the game. But that's just the price we pay to climb out. That was corny as hell. There's this section near the end that flows so nicely. It's smooth as hell to play and even just looks really cool too. Not every part of this is perfect, but out of what you would call basic levels, this has to be my favorite. This is it. The best mosquito level in the game. Everything about it feels so dynamic. There's so much to this level and it all works. The eels come back and make this one thrilling to play. There's even a dark part where you have to stay in the light, and the gimmick works so well in a mosquito level. My only complaint is that it isn't longer. I wish the section at the end was longer, like in Fire When Wetty, but besides that, this one is perfect. I surprised myself when I put this high on the list. But low-key, it's just an amazing level. This is sort of like the non-underwater version of the light gimmick from Swimming with Stars, and it works to great effect here. Having the sort of safe zones from the scarabs is a fun mechanic and leads to some really good challenges. There's even a mosquito electune room that makes use of the gimmick. This isn't one that stands out that much, but I feel like it's one of the best designed levels in the game. You might find yourself struggling if you're impatient, but just take your time and you'll most likely enjoy this one as much as I do. I remember this level being second in difficulty only to the Land of the Living Dead. But coming back, I don't think this one is as hard as I thought. Don't get me wrong though, this level will test your skills. The best parts easily being when you need to run across platforms that appear and disappear as you play. It just feels so slick to do. It's some of the tightest platforming in the whole game, and that makes sense considering this is the last level before the 3-level gauntlet at the end. The zoomed out room with the gears always stood out to me as well, because the game usually doesn't mess around with the camera that much. The very end with the maze-like structure that turns and you need to hit the robots into the saw blaze is difficult, but once you get it down, it feels great to do. Make no mistake, this is an amazing level. By far my favorite tricky treasure in the game. This one is simply built different. It starts out good and ends amazing. It's pretty tame until you get under the water. But once you're there, you go deeper and deeper as it gets darker and darker. It ties together all the good aspects about World 4 and 9 and puts them in one tricky treasure looking package. It also feels like it's the longest tricky treasure, which really boosts it to me. My main problem with tricky treasure levels is that they are either way too short or too jank. This isn't either. It's not the hardest, but it doesn't need to be when it's this fun. I know this might be the most personal pick on the list because I doubt most people would put this high, but I really do love this level. This is the quintessential water level in this game. It's got a relaxed vibe to it that just makes it so calming to play. The rock guys that try to eat you are fun, and halfway through you stumble upon a shipwreck. This level feels like it has a sense of exploration to it. All of that culminates in the gorgeous last room. Look at this. It's so pretty. I wish there would have been a whole level that looked like this. And I'd be remiss to not mention the second Electron room, which while exceedingly basic, I mean, come on, look, this is so fun. This is the perfect water level in my eyes. Even if it's freaky. Platforming up falling debris is something this game does a few times, and each time it's epic. Parts from Moody Clouds, which is of course situated above the mystical peak, falling down into this level is the sort of world building that I don't expect to see from this game, but it still delivers. But even before that, you have to do a lot of wall running, and I like how the tentacle vine things pulsate in and out so you have to time when you go right. And of course you end up fighting Golly? Yeah, Golly G Golem. It's nothing crazy, but it's almost like the cherry on top of this level. A capstone that pulls the whole thing together. And oh yeah, there's a Donkey Kong reference in this level. Imagine having a level so stacked that isn't even one of the first things you bring up when talking about it. This has got to be the longest level in the game, if you don't count Land of the Living Dead. But I love it for that. This level's length is the level. Without it, it wouldn't be the same. It really feels like you're in the endgame because this level is fairly hard. It introduces the robot enemies that can't be killed unless you knock them into something. And that is showcased amazingly in the first Electoon room. But this level also has some tight platforming. Platforming around electricity? Of course. Platforming around saw blades? Duh. Platforming on spinny wheel things? What do you take this level for? Some kind of chump? This one really just has it all. Only problem is that the length makes it a bit harder to replay, but let's be honest, that's not too much of a complaint. How come this boss level is so much better than all the others? Simple. The level is good, and the boss is the best in the game. Starting with the level, you get chased on some ice into the big man's mouth, and then you get to explore the most out there setting in the whole game. Inside a dragon. The boss itself is unique because you aren't actually fighting anyone. You're fighting indigestion. Dodging the fire feels great, and the last phase is epic. The floor disappears and you can only platform on bubbles. I know I said I don't like the bubbles, but here it works so much better, since instead of riding on one of them, you need to constantly be going between them as some pop and others form. All of this culminates in a chase sequence back out of his mouth. Seriously, if they just played the cutscene of him throwing you up after the last hit, nobody would have cared. But they went the extra mile for this level. It portrays the theme of fire and ice pretty well for the finale of World 8, and is the best boss level in the game. This level. I could talk about why this level is so good, or I can just show you it. This is easily the coolest level in the game. Jumping across falling debris while chasing the magician would be good on its own. But just look at this. I feel like they went out of their way to make this level as cool as possible. So many moving parts and dynamic pieces that make this level feel like it's forming and falling apart around you. When I was younger, I would just replay this stage over and over because I was obsessed with it. And I mean, clearly I still kinda am. No, I'm not just putting this at number 2 to be different. There is one thing about this level that I think holds it back. But before that, I'll get to everything amazing about this level. I've referenced this one many times throughout the ranking for a reason. It's the longest level in the game, and it's the hardest level in the game. You need to beat all 10 tricky treasure levels to unlock this one, and this level makes those ones look easy in comparison. I might as well just go over all the sections. The first part is basic, but it's a strong introduction. It shows you that this one's gonna be hard. The second part brings back the snake from Skyward Sonata and Snake Eyes, but now it's like a frog gecko thing? I don't really know. This part is one of my favorites though because of how fast it goes. It's easy to get left behind, so any wasted time can easily be a death sentence. The third part is more chill and just involves wall running up some falling bones. The noteworthy part here for me is the coffin. Jumping on the non-spiky side of the coffin feels very good to do, and just like last time, it's very easy to get left behind, so you need to make sure you're keeping pace. After that, you've got a more basic part that feels like an intermission to the last part. The fifth section has fire everywhere. Fire jets, fireballs, you name it. This is one of the harder parts of the level and also my favorite, especially the part where you need to fall down while dodging fireballs. The lead up to the boss is also great because it feels like so many fireballs are going to hit you, but it lines up perfectly to dodge all of them. And then there's the boss. The one and only weakness to this level. It's not terrible per se, but it's pretty bad. It's an anticlimactic way to end the most climactic level. It's incredibly learny and you basically have no chance on your first try. But that leads to you dying like 5 times just trying to figure out her non-existent telegraphs. I know I'm being harsh to this boss, but it's the last one. Bosses aren't this game's strong suit, but if this is what you're gonna put at the end of the last level, I would have just preferred it if you didn't have a boss at all. And that's why this is only number 2. It's an incredible level and evidently the boss doesn't even come close to ruining it for me. But I can't say it's my favorite because of it. When I played this level, I immediately knew it was my favorite. Just everything about it. The hammers, the salt shakers, the jalapeno. There isn't a bad part to this level, but not just that. What is here is all amazing. I can't even pick a favorite part. The hammers are super fun to dodge. The salt shakers are very interesting and lead to unique gameplay scenarios. The part at the end where you go back and forth jumping on utensils to reach the top is so good. This level also has a bullet hell mosquito section. I mean, what's not to love? Is this level the most tightly designed, the most unique, or the most challenging? No. But no other level has the vibes this one does. And no other level makes me as happy to play it as this one. Even if it isn't your favorite, you must admit that it's an incredibly solid level. I can't think of a single criticism to levy towards it. So yeah, Dragon Soup is my favorite level from Rayman Origins. Thanks so much if you've stuck around this far. This video took a lot of time to make. I probably shouldn't have gone with the 64th level ranking as my first one, but hey, you live and you learn. If you enjoyed and would be interested in seeing more content like this, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed. But even if you don't, I hope you liked it. See ya if I see ya.